Hello ladies and gentlemen, this is Blue Maxima and I'm here checking out Spy Hunter. I'm doing this on no sleep, so if this video turns out to be pretty bad, I'm sorry about that, but at the same time, this isn't a very good game, so it's not like it's going to turn out great anyway. Ignore the generic-ass spy music in the background. Actually, that's a great word, isn't it? This is an absolutely fantastic word for describing what this game is. Generic. You have music and effects volume. I was just turning this down immediately, but I'm going to keep it on as default for, well, demonstration purposes. You've got a few control options here, but there's not many that are useful outside of just, you know, configuration A. So, yeah, just keep it on that, because why not? You do also have a couple of other configuration options here, but most of these aren't that useful. Maybe a cruise control is, but frankly, that's, God almighty, it's actually kind of hard to control the cars in this game, so the ability to use the brake whenever you can remember to use it is actually kind of useful. Also, tilt steering, fuck that noise. You've also got rear touchpad, but again, fuck that noise. So, not much to work with here. So we'll go load into the campaign. There is a multiplayer mode, but unfortunately, it is ad hoc. So, no real point to it. So, back we go into the campaign. We can continue the campaign that I've just gone on. I've been playing for about an hour at this point, more or less, and I really can't be bothered to play anymore. I get the point, more or less, and I've seen half the enemies the game has to offer me anyway. So the idea of the intel is that you got to take pictures of all the enemies that you come across. And I've already seen half of them, so I can't imagine them getting very much more interesting. Skill shot stats is literally just how many times you've done something silly. Paint work, you can just change your paint job, but some of these cost ridiculous amounts of points, so there's really no point to getting them at all, because you'll just spend money that could be better spent upgrading your weapons. You can't actually upgrade your health, which is one of the more annoying parts of this game. You can only upgrade your weaponry. And you earn weaponry points by performing special objectives in the main game. Some of these upgrades are actually pretty useful. I will buy that shocker upgrade, actually. Because why not? The weapon upgrades are useful, don't get me wrong. It's just, it would be really nice if you could upgrade, like, the car's handling. Or the car's top speed or something like that. But, yeah. I've been through 5 missions, and these missions are actually really short for the most part. The reason why I've spent an hour trying to get through these 5 missions is that they're actually really difficult. Like, extremely difficult. For some reason. Like, the parts with the car, for the most part, are fine, but when you have to go in the fucking turret sections, they just get ridiculous. But anyway, we'll just pick a mission and we'll go through. This game's got absolutely no story to speak of. Like, none. Honest to God. Like, there's this plot where, basically, you're driving around this super fancy car, and there's this other guy who's trying to do something. What he's trying to do isn't too clear, but he's trying to do something. You don't know what that is yet, but it's clearly evil. Just because he has this, like, giant semi-truck that tries to attack you at some point, and yada, 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 yada. So anyway, away we go. So this is... Was I supposed to... I was supposed to stop in there, wasn't I? Yeah, I was. God damn it. So... The game actually looks pretty nice. I have this theory going on that this game's got... Basically, either this giant open world or a bunch of interconnected stages that could form a giant open world. Right. So I have to get to the next bit in 2,000 minutes or less. So as I was saying... The game feels like it could be in a giant open world, more or less. So it's kind of disappointing that they didn't make this a sort of open world game instead of just a mission-based driving game like it is now, because they really could have done something interesting with this. Funnily enough, this is made by the people who make the Lord of the Rings, not the Lord of the Rings, the Lego handheld ports. So they had some idea of what they were doing, because the game actually runs pretty well. What doesn't run so well is the fucking steering on this car. It's infuriating. Jesus Christ, like, trying to avoid these mines is ridiculous because your car slip, slides all over the place. So, steering this son of a bitch is actually really difficult. And as you can see in the bottom left there, you've actually got limited health. So, the more mistakes you make, the more of a problem it is to, have this steering be a problem. Because it takes a lot of effort to get your car actually going where you want it to. And avoiding things like machine gun fire and dropped bombs and stuff like that. It's just really hard sometimes. It doesn't really help. Because the physics are actually really fucked up as well. What the hell am I being targeted by right now? Oh. Also, if I tap the bottom right corner of the screen, I've successfully gotten lockdown locked onto, apparently. There's the comms truck. You gotta destroy that. Oh, God. And also of note, when you slow down, all the other cars slow down with you. It's actually quite silly. But yeah, when you slow down, all the other cars slow down. But the physics are really annoying because you can get sent off course by the lightest bump in the road. There's actually a mission where you have to run from this giant ass truck, and you have to like stay ahead of it by boosting. But if you get knocked like to the side by a random piece of hill terrain, you'll die. Like absolutely guaranteed you'll die. It's infuriating. Also, you might have noticed on the ride there that truck there dropped a green thing. That's a pickup that gets you extra points at the end. That's one of the game's many side objectives. I'll just grab my swarm missiles out and just try and these things don't actually take much damage, and for some reason I stopped moving. Boosting in this game's infuriating, mainly because you have to double tap the acceleration button. I guess that's why cruise control would be useful, because you can keep going straight forward, but yeah. I gotta admit, some of these games' cutscenes are delightfully cheesy. Just, you know, stuff like flying through that. And there are some areas that will, like, trigger cutscenes. I'm about to die. Like, look at my health. I'm almost dead. The game will trigger cutscenes if you do specific things in the levels. Like, if you go off a specific ramp, you'll get a massive amount. You'll get this stupid cutscene if you're just dropping off. And silly shit like that. It's funny the first few times, but then it gets annoying. Especially when you have to repeat the missions to stand any chance of actually surviving them. And you've got to just... Ooh, weird cutscene there. Especially since you have to repeat the missions over and over. But thankfully I actually managed to get through this time. There is part-time and the black box and the enemy comms that I already told you about. Spy on a pro, I guess that means get all of them at once. And of course skill for doing things like getting 2 or 3 kills at a time or collecting stuff and stuff like that is just... The time is the most annoying thing about these missions, because there are some missions where you can only get it done in a very specific amount of time, but you'll still miss the part-time by like 2 seconds. So you have to do the mission absolutely perfect in order to actually get it done. And it really sucks, honestly. It really does feel like this game needs a huge amount of just improvement, honestly. I'll swap all my weapons out, because flash binder and the machine gun is always there.
Sequence initiated.
It's a shame, because the game has a ton of potential, but with the wonky physics, the annoying difficulty spikes, especially in some of the missions where you have to deal with a...
It looks like one of your research team is smarter than the rest of you combined. They'll be a valuable asset to my team, along with their tech.
Yeah, I don't know who that guy is. Well, he is the leader of the bad guys. That much is pretty obvious. But he's the only guy who gets voice acted, and it's odd. It really is. But with the wonky physics and the weird difficulty curve that goes up and down depending on what you have to do at the time, like, as I said before, there are some sections where you have to hop into the truck and do turret sections. And the most annoying thing in the world is you have to be stupid precise. Some of the trucks will kill you pretty much well, not so much kill you, but hurt you pretty bad as soon as they come onto the scene. So if you don't have like a grenade launcher round loaded, it can get really frustrating to deal with really quickly. And it's a shame because we don't have that much in the way of car combat on the Vita, which is disappointing because car combat is fun when done right. See, flat out, burnout, take your pick. Hey, can I actually get this time? Did I just knock it out of the way? Fuck me. It's an interesting game, honestly. I mean, the car combat, while it's not the worst thing in the world, but at the same time, it's not as engaging as I would have hoped. You can also transform... Seriously? That counted as a failure? God damn. I used my boosters about as many times as I could, and I still didn't manage to catch up to him. I'll retry it once, and if I don't get it right, I'll move back to a previous mission, because fuck that. Again, just these missions are all... have these massive difficulty spikes, and if you don't do them perfectly, well, you won't be able to finish the mission. It's the most frustrating fucking thing. Especially since the cars have some kind of rubber banding on them where it's like, oh, you feel like boosting? Oh, everybody else is just gonna go as fast as you can. That is the most frustrating fucking thing about this game, I swear to God. But I do have a missile launcher, apparently, so let's use that to my advantage. I'm just gonna rant a little bit more about the turret sections because I've literally had the fucking turret sections kill me. Despite the fact that the truck that did the final bit of damage to me was actually dead at the time. It's frustrating. And you have this machine gun, which is really fucking hard to aim over long distance. And... oh man, it just... the amount of bad things you can say about the turret sections. The machine gun that you have to aim is really inaccurate, and the grenade launcher, which is the only way to reliably destroy enemies, is just retarded in how fucking annoying it is. Because I aimed it directly down in front of an enemy, and the grenade launcher round just went straight over the top of the goddamn enemy. It was infuriating. Incredibly infuriating. And it's a shame, because it runs pretty well. Don't get me wrong. Oh, great. So, yeah, now we transform into the boat. And I can take a picture of... Can I not take a picture of this guy? Must have already got him. Yeah, the flash blinder, just makes him spin out a bit, but it's not as useful as the swarm missiles I found. You can transform into, as you saw before, the ATV and, of course, right now the boat. But unfortunately, the steering on these isn't as good as you might hope. Again, it's just a bit wonky. It's really hard to get a turn going because you start to skid in the opposite direction that you press the stick in. And it just, oh man, it's just really annoying to deal with when you have to be precise. I mean, the ATV mode's actually alright, but the car and the regular car mode and the boat just skid all over the place. And still, I'm having trouble here because of the freaking controls, but there you go. I like the idea of having the 4 weapons and having to swap between them, and there's a fair few different kinds of missions, but it all roughly comes down to the same thing, especially since the mission objectives don't change. And most of the missions, in fact, require you to basically get through undamaged, which is infuriating. And I do like how there are things like environmental damage that you can see there.
You just don't give up, do you?
It's just...
It's rather a shame you didn't end up...
yeah, look, I'm not going to be able to hit this guy now, because I don't have any weapons that can hit above ground, so... that'll be fun. Okay, weapons truck. Is that the end of the mission, or am I going to have to go through another turret segment? Oh, I get to do the silly death from above segment. There's not even really death from above. It's just, you map out the targets and then they explode while you're driving down the road. So anyway, we'll do that. Then we've got to move the analog stick up the road. Mortar. This is an airstrike. Except I somehow managed to miss that one, because fuck. And that's the Sky Needle, and away we go. It has a lot of annoying issues that I feel like really could have been fixed during the game's beta period. Just, you know, tweak the handling, balance the difficulty curve, and this would have actually been a lot of fun. But I find myself getting extremely frustrated at the amount of times I have to repeat a mission in order to pull off a freaking mission. Because, seriously, the one with the truck, you literally have to be perfect most of the time. And it is the most frustrating thing imaginable. Honest to God. So it even zooms in to show you where you can go to actually get out of the way of the thing. But this is basically every mission at this point. It's just get to the end of the gauntlet they've set out for you. Usually within a time limit or some sort of secondary thing, like don't take too much damage in the process. And yeah, that's basically it. Get some weird cutscenes.
Objective completed.
And yeah, that's basically, it's really generic. The steering sucks. The weapon combat is okay. Doesn't make up for the fact that the actual driving stuff sucks. And the mission difficulty curve just gets ridiculous. It just goes up and down, and it requires you to have some really good memory of what comes up during the actual missions. So, yeah. It's not great. Maybe a $5 fuck it, I might as well see what it's like purchase, but otherwise not really worth the effort to go and seek it out. It's a shame, because apparently the PS2 Spy Hunter game was good. I was hoping when this was originally announced that they were just going to port that version to 3DS and Vita, but no, I hoped too much. So yeah, that was just a quick look at Spy Hunter. I have more actual content coming soon, if you're wondering. I do have imports on the way, so hopefully this will keep you tided over until then. So this has been Blue Maxima, and I'll see you all next time.